The Tier 8 Premium British Campaign Battleship is here as part of a dual campaign, which we're no stranger to anymore. Now, in Legends, it's a choice between this Royal Navy glass cannon or the 406mm SAP-wielding Marco Polo. Two pretty darn cool battleships, I'm not going to lie. So, what does the Marlborough have going on here? Well, the quad turrets, they're kind of what we would see on a KGV and a Duke of York, except we have 4 of them, so 16 guns. They're 356mm, just like the King George V battleships. That's pretty small. But what they lack in size, they make up for in sheer volume. And this match is going to showcase that pretty well. This ship is very capable. A little bit of a disclaimer. Your results may vary. But in this match on Islands of Ice, I was largely ignored and just allowed to continue firing and firing and firing. Glass cannon is exactly how I would describe this ship, so if you see Marb on the open seas, focus and kill her as quickly as you can. She'll go down pretty easily, maybe. But also disclaimer, as you can probably tell by the weeaboo voice in the background, I'm using Azerlane Nelson. Not everyone has that commander, I do understand. But she will put this ship on a whole another level with her big 7 perk, buffing HE shell damage by a considerable amount. If you don't have her though, that's okay, don't fret. I would set your British cancer stick up with aiming systems, rudder, concealment, and MBM3. Commander-wise, it's a tough one, but I would probably stick with Cunningham. Why? Because the ship is going to do much better at long range. When you see the armor scheme, it will all make sense to you, I promise. But for range, we want Flammable Cannoneer, Marksman, Emergency Specialist, and Fight Fire with Fire. Inspos for me during this game were Cunningham and Scharnhorst. So, I'm torn. I think Madden is also a decent choice for this for one huge reason, and that is Master Mechanic. Marlborough gets super heals, but only 2 stock, so a level 16 commander with Master Mechanic could get you 2 more heals. Just understand that not having Flammable Cannoneer means your range is going to be much shorter, and your accuracy much worse. You could take range module in slot 4, but then you're losing a little DPM, which actually might be okay. So as you can see, there's probably several ways to skin a cat with this ship here. Try some different builds out yourself, see what you like best. If you're getting dumpstered a lot, then maybe you should go back and fight from longer ranges. You'll notice at the beginning of this game, I've been fighting from 16 to 18 kilometers, and it makes me a very unappealing target. So that kind of might be why I had such good longevity this game and just kept racking up the damage. Anyways, some key things to understand about this ship. The reason I say you should fight from range is because of the terrible armor scheme, which I'm going to show you. This is not going to be a good up-close battleship or a brawling BB. On the flip side, shell grouping for her is the worst in the entire game, I believe. It's a 1.4 Sigma. I don't think there's any other BB that has a worse Sigma rating, but to be honest, with full accuracy build, she's performing fine. You can see here that we're getting plenty of hits on target. I think at the end of the game we had about 120 shell hits. And again, it's just the sheer volume of shells that you're throwing out here. But the accuracy build, it worked fine, even though you have the worst Sigma that I have personally ever seen. I think it's not so bad because the dispersion ellipses are American or British, so they're not really that bad. One more time for the kids in the back. Dispersion is the size and the shape of the ellipse that shells will land in. In Sigma is how close these shells are going to tend to group together in the middle. In my eyes, good dispersion but bad Sigma it's okay. It's not near as bad as having bad dispersion and good Sigma. French shotgun accuracy or German shotgun accuracy that you see sometimes, those are because of big dispersion ellipses. But anyways, we'll not bore you. Let's start with some of the stats. Health pool, 76k. It's pretty average, but hear me out. Super heals. They're good for nearly 25,000 health. If I remember right, the PC version of the game, their Marlborough does not get super heals. Luckily, we did, and it's going to bring Marb's effective health up to 125,000. That is the healthiest tier 8 BB with her heals. That's not even counting if you use Master Mechanic to get a couple more heals out of there. Now, you're going to need all this health, for behold you troglodytes, one of the worst BB armor schemes I have ever seen. 32mm bow and stern sections are huge, massive superstructure that can be farmed out. 32mm deck is susceptible to HE spam, especially from 203s like Des Moines. 28% torp reduction's not that great. Maybe it doesn't sound that bad, but keep in mind the main has a 42%, the Musashi 55%, and the Republique 59% torpedo reduction. So when you're comparing it, Marbs isn't that great. And the Citadel is absolutely huge. It's above the waterline, and it is right out to the edge of the ship. 381mm belt is also not that great. So all of that poor armor and survivability is balanced out by the insane performance of the guns. Best DPM at the tier. Marb wins in HE and AP. Take a little peek over at the Marco though. You can see her SAP shells kind of edging out the high explosive. More on that later this week, stay tuned. But these HE shells get quarter pin. So they smash through 89mm of armor, which I'm really not sure that matters. Having normal pin, you're basically going to pin every battleship deck at tier 8 and legendary tier, except the Conqueror. So quarter pin, that's one of the only instances I see that it's actually better than normal pin. And that brings me to shell selection. Most of the time, I'd say you're going to want to be slinging the HE shells. It's just so easy to do reliable damage, as this game is showcasing. The AP does okay. It has normal fuse timers, so nothing special there. They do not have increased pin angles like the Duke of York or other British ships. But against broadsides, I think you're going to get good results. If you're shooting at battleships at longer than 14 kilometers, you might as well aim for the upper belt or the superstructure with the AP. Otherwise, just keep slinging HE. The fire chance isn't high, 24%, sorry, but you have so many shells flying out of here and your reload being 25 seconds base, you're going to set plenty of fires. AA is the second best at the tier, so that is a nice little perk. Her speed is also second best at the tier behind old Marco Polo. Finally, Concealment 14.8, that's really good for these giant BBs at the tier. So let's check back in on the game. I need a bigger sample size of games in this ship. The couple games that I played in her both went very well, but I need to play some more because I'm sure there are some deficiency that this ship could definitely show. I know I talked a lot of good about the ship, but let's talk about some of the other deficiencies. The armor scheme, we saw that. That is going to be a big detriment to this ship. Battleship things, pushing and tanking for your team. Those are things that sometimes you just have to do. In this game, I didn't have to because I had a strong division and a decent team, but sometimes you're going to have to do that. So I'm going to say her carry potential is maybe a little lower than others. Yes, you can heal back a lot of damage, just like the Conqueror, but it's only going to work if you're not taking a huge amount of sustained fire. After all, after your damage con cycles, you're going to have to wait, I believe, 80 seconds for the next one to heal. So yeah, you have to be a little bit careful. The other problem with this ship is her horrible gun firing angles. You're going to have to flash a lot of leg to continue cycling your front guns or your back guns, depending which way you're oriented. And a smart enemy BB player is simply going to wait for you to turn your ship enough to get all your guns to bear, and they're going to murder you right into your giant above-the-water citadel. Your best bet, as far as I can see it, is to use the rudder module, like I mentioned earlier. Swing your guns into and out of the fight when it is safe to do so. This is not a ship where you want to get stuck bow in with only half of your firepower. I think this ship will become quickly mediocre if you do that. Playing from long to medium ranges, kind of like this. Here in this last part of the gameplay, we're moving around, we're playing kind of in a flowing battleship way. We're using our rudder. I know at the beginning we kind of just sat still, but that's because no one was shooting me. I didn't have to move. I was, content to sit there and farm damage. But if someone had started focusing on me, then we would use our mobility to stay alive. And the enemy carrier got spotted, and boy am I excited to test some AP rounds on it. So here in a few seconds we'll see how the AP does from this long of range. I think the shot will end up being like, 15 or 16 kilometers. We'll take a look. So the Marco review is going to be next. I'll try to get to that tomorrow if I can. I am curious though which of these BBs you guys are leaning towards from watching other CCs and so on. Their reputations don't precede them from the PC as far as I can tell. Marco doesn't have exhaust smoke on PC, she has it here. Marb doesn't have super heals, I don't think on the PC, she has it here. So both of the ships have entered our game pretty strong and in a fun state. It is going to be very hard to pick which one to take, but we have 5 weeks to do so, so no rush. Oh, 14.2 kilometers, but still shots out on the Hakiryu, which you don't see very often. Not a lot of legendary carriers. Shots are good, and that is going to wrap this game up for us. I don't know, 230, 240k, somewhere in there. Very good game. If you could do me a favor, hit the like button and be sure to subscribe for future videos so you don't miss any future content, and I'll catch you in the next video. See ya.